This video is brought to you by Squarespace. From custom domains to beautiful websites using their easily customizable templates that you can have up and running in minutes, e-commerce, email and email marketing, SEO, analytics, and scheduling, Squarespace does it all and has done it for us for the last 10 years. If you are a small to mid-sized business in any industry, Squarespace is the place to go for all of your website needs. Hop over to www.squarespace.com/Hugh for a free trial. And if you like what you see and want to move forward, receive 10% off your first order by using the discount code Hugh at checkout. Thanks, Squarespace. Bear with me for a minute or three because context matters. When Canon announced its $3,100, 1.43 kilogram RF 20-70 f2 IS USML zoom in 2018, many in the industry were enthralled. It was the fastest Holy Trinity standard zoom ever, with image quality which rivaled or exceeded that of many, if not most, primes. It promised to be a legitimate alternative to a set of primes, 28, 35, 50, and 70 f2s. No need to change lenses. It raised the bar for the industry, especially for event shooting and photojournalism. But there's no such thing as a free lunch, and the Canon was big, heavy, and expensive. It still is today, even when it is selling, as of this recording, for $300 less than its launch price. But the size and weight, they are what they are. The 28-70 f2 from Canon is 50% bigger, for example, 59% heavier, and at $2,800, 17% more expensive than Canon's own much newer, image-stabilized RF 24-70 f2.8. The older 28-70 f2 sacrifices the wider sweep of the 24-70 2.8. It sacrifices lens image stabilization, which, given its size, weight, and the absence of in-body image stabilization in the camera for which it was designed, the EOS R, was notable and a bit perplexing then, even if IBIS is widely available now across Canon's lineup, and the 28-70 f2 still breathes like a dragon. Although this is relevant primarily to those of us considering it for cinematic video work only. The net of it was that the RF 28-70 f2 made little sense for my personal work as a street photographer, but there was simply no denying that it was a halo product, a technical tour de force. Now, Sony comes along, 6 years later, to offer their version of the same thing, a 28-70 f2. The big question is, so what? Well, first off, this is so what. Hey everybody, I'm Hugh Brownstone for Three Blind Men and an Elephant, and it is as simple as this. The market has moved on. The king is dead. Long live the king. With this morning's announcement of its $2,900 918-gram FE 28-70 f2.0 G Master, Sony has supplanted Canon's RF 28-70 f2, and Sigma's recently announced $1,350, 1 kilo, just 50 grams shy, 28-45mm f1.8 DGDN art as the reference standard for fastest Holy Trinity standard zoom. It kicks. Sony has used the last decade to hone its skills as a lens maker, and it shows. The new G Master is uber performant optically, operationally, and addresses the most significant issues I personally had with the Canon: size and weight. The Sony is 11% smaller, but a whopping 36% lighter, literally just over half a kilo lighter. By all accounts, it is also much better controlled for focus breathing, a function both of the lens itself and Sony's in-camera focus breathing compensation. In my short time with it during informal and imperfect testing in the real world, because Claudia and I were both having too much fun for pixel porn, I couldn't see a significant difference in image quality between it and our 24-70 2.8 G Master 2 from infinity to near minimum focusing distance, and that's pretty amazing. Although, on, I'll have to call it an instinctive level, I'm inclined to give the edge to the 24-70 2.8 GM2 at stupid high magnification. In any case, the new G Master also happens to deliver 50% greater reach and a much higher burst rate than the Sigma in Sony E-mount, while doing it in a fractionally lighter, if fractionally larger envelope, which, it must be acknowledged, just about double the price of the Sigma. As for things like sunstars, coma, and lens flare, I don't test for them because I generally don't compose my frames for them. I don't much worry about distortion or vignetting either because these are increasingly handled by software by everyone and they are pretty darn good. Well, okay, this image is a rare exception for me where a sunstar matters, taken with Leica's Super Elmar 18mm f3.8 on my M11, an incredibly small and lightweight package well suited to street photography. One of the wonderful things about YouTube, though, is that we have friends out there, Chris Nichols and Jordan Drake in particular over at Petapixel. Those guys are just, well, they're friends, but they are massively entertaining, massively competent practitioners of photography and videography, respectively, and utterly thorough, which is why I recommend you check them out and subscribe if you haven't already done so. In other words, we are spoilt for choice, and we are approaching peak image quality improvement for now. Shooting in the real world has always been where it's at, never more so than now. Personally, I've concluded that I am at a point of diminishing returns for spending very much time drawing ever finer distinctions among top-tier lens manufacturers. I'd much rather focus on artistic voice, the art and joy of photography, and how much they weigh. Anyway, what makes this 28-70 f2 interesting to me is image quality so high across the board, resolution so high across the board, relatively flat field curvature that it can satisfy both my needs for unremittingly crisp detail corner to corner for my urban landscape work, and by taking down the critical sharpness a bit in post because editing software has gone through a recent revolution of its own, subtler and more pleasing rendering for street portraits and just about everything in between. It's just that it is a big sucker to remain attached to the camera for hours on end. But what does all of this mean for you? Right, as always, the answer is a function of your use cases, budget, and priorities. If you're an event photographer or photojournalist, I begin by asking these questions. 1. Does that one extra stop of light of the 28-70 f2 over Sony's own brilliant $2,300, 695 gram 24-70 2.8 G Master 2, which we own and love, warrant its 26% higher price, 32% greater weight, and call it 33% greater size, especially when it also means giving up that wider field of view at the bottom end? Would this new 28-70 f2 still be worth it were you to consider instead zoom to zoom either Sigma's also outstanding $1,200, 735 gram 24-70 2.8 DGD and Art Mark II, or Tamron's $700, 540 gram, even smaller, DI3 VXD G2 28-75 f2.8? 2. Alternatively, Does the 28-70 f2's image quality, size, weight, and ease of use, most especially eliminating the need to swap lenses, make it a better choice for you than a comparable set of even faster 1.4 G Master primes, like Sony's 24, 35, 50, and 85 Mark II? What about the 50mm f1.2? We are, after all, talking about a single zoom lens, which is 48% less expensive, 57% lighter. I love the sound of this. And 51% smaller than that set of 1.4s. With image quality clients are likely to find indistinguishable from those primes, except in low light where the difference between, say, ISO 2000 and 4000 or 8000 and 16000 might be noticeable. Might. Quite noticeable to you and me. Although, in either case, you might need to take down the sharpness a bit in post, especially if you're a wedding photographer. But would the 28-70 f2 still be worth it were you to consider instead using the sensor resolution of, say, a 50 megapixel A1 or A1 II, or the even higher resolution of a 61 megapixel A7R5 or A7CR, we own both of those, to plug the gaps among a sparser prime kit, maybe only 3 or even 2 lenses, at which point the primes would be far more comfortable in hand over longer stretches, with essentially 1/3 the weight of the 28-70 on camera at any one time. 3. Does the 28-70 f2 make more sense than a combination of a pick your 24-70, 2.8, somewhere around there, with a single f1.4 or 1.2 prime for those instances when low light or shallowest depth of field of the highest order are required? If street or travel are your thing, I'd start here. 1. Do you really want to carry a lens as big, heavy, and potentially intrusive, attention-grabbing, as the 28-70 f2, rather than a small prime on your camera? Maybe another 2 or 3 in a small bag or in a jacket pocket. I'm not talking G Master primes now. I'm talking things like Sigma's $640 365 gram 24 f2, $640 325 gram 35 f2, $640 350 gram 50 f2, $700 405 gram 65 f2, which is awesome. Or maybe on either end of those focal lengths, perhaps the $700 370 gram 20 f2, or $640, yet again, 295 gram 92.8, which I think is a brilliant lens. There is no right answer to any of these questions, of course. I raise them here only as a starting point for you. As for us, well, Claudia isn't willing to live without the wider 24mm bottom end, the lighter weight, and the already superb image quality of the 24-70 G Master II, which is basically glued to her A7CR full-time. And, as I just intimated, I prefer the much lighter on-camera weight and both the creative limitations and precision of my 35 and 51.4 G Master primes matched to my A7R5, so we're standing pat. Never mind all the other stuff we have. In the end, as I said at the beginning, the king is dead, long live the king. Sony has redefined the state of the art for fastest, Holy Trinity standard zooms by going beyond its usual full complement of switchgear, uber performant autofocus motors, and image quality, even widest maximum aperture, in pursuit of the final frontier, not to mix metaphors or anything. Minimal size and weight. Personally, this is my biggest bugaboo as we move forward. For professional event photographers and photojournalists who do need that one extra stop of light for better high ISO noise performance, shallower depth of field, or higher shutter speed to prevent motion blur, or who simply cannot countenance or take the time for lens swapping, or with quite legitimacy fear dust or moisture intrusions, the Sony 28-70mm f2 G Master is worth the sacrifices. It is a compelling option, and this lens burnishes Sony's already well-deserved reputation for exceptional execution of a growing list of core competencies, which is to say, because that was pretty dry. Sony continues to kick and take names. But for the rest of us, I think smaller, lighter, and less expensive are likely to be the order of the day. But as always, that's just me. Your mileage may vary, and that's fine. The real question is, what do you think? This video is brought to you by Squarespace. From custom domains to beautiful websites using their easily customizable templates that you can have up and running in minutes, e-commerce, email and email marketing, SEO, analytics, and scheduling, Squarespace does it all and has done it for us for the last 10 years. If you are a small to mid-sized business in any industry, Squarespace is the place to go for all of your website needs. Hop over to www.squarespace.com/Hugh for a free trial. And if you like what you see and want to move forward, receive 10% off your first order by using the discount code Hugh at checkout. Thanks, Squarespace. If you like what you've seen here today, please give a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, join the conversation in the comments section below because this is an exceptional audience. If you'd like help with a portfolio review, gear selection, finding or honing your artistic voice, sign up for a one-on-one mentoring video call via Zoom at 3bmep.com/booking. Finally, please consider supporting our work by using the no-cost to you affiliate links down below, sending us coffee money via PayPal, or most especially, joining us on Patreon, links down below as well. However you choose to support us, as always, we thank you for it.